We're going to the moon. We're going to the moon. To the moon. We're going to the moon.
We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things.
Good morning, everybody. We're back at Kennedy Space Center. Today is all about the moon. For the first time since 1972, we're about to launch astronauts back into orbit around the moon. We're starting our day over towards the rocket garden. And while it's important to note that none of the rockets you see here landed humans on the moon, but some of them made the moon landings possible. Rockets like this help map the moon, and without them, Apollo wouldn't have known where to land. This is Juno 2, and this launched early U.S. Pioneer lunar probes in the late 1950s. These missions attempted to reach the moon, though many failed due to rocket reliability. This is an Atlas Agena rocket. This launched lunar orbiter spacecraft 1966 to 67. This made Apollo landings possible by helping map out the moon. Most importantly, what's really cool about the rocket garden is that while none of these rockets actually took humans to the moon, instead they represent the steps that made it possible from early lunar probes to mapping the moon to training astronauts in Earth orbit. Apollo didn't happen all at once. It literally happened here, piece by piece. I'll give a little snapshot of history here. Russia actually first orbited the moon in 1966 as part of Luna, and the US orbited the moon with humans first in 1968 with the Apollo program, Apollo 8. 12 astronauts have walked on the moon. The first moon landing was Apollo 11 in 1969. The last astronaut to walk on the moon was Gene Cernan, and that was 1972. So again, 54 years ago, just about. I think it was in December of 1972. Since the 70s, we've had other countries land robotics on the moon. China, India, Japan, US too. And in 2022, we launched Artemis I. No humans on board, but we were able to get back to a moon orbit. And now just in a matter of a couple of weeks, we're due to launch Artemis II. Humans on board, orbiting the moon, setting up the next mission, subsequently will be Artemis III, to be able to land to the moon. The moon looked at as not only a place where we could stay potentially weeks at a time, but as a gateway to the rest of deep space. This is something I've dreamed about since I was a kid. I'm not old enough to have experienced the original moon landings and moon trips. Everything's always just been in kind of orbit, whether it's the space shuttles, the ISS, the most recent rockets. This is unbelievable that it's happening. Today we're going to head out to the launch pad area, see Artemis actually sitting on the launch pad ready to go. It just rolled out the other day. We're going to be doing the Explore tour, which gets you a little bit closer than the normal tours out here. So hopefully we get some good shots. But before we rocket, pun intended, into the future, let's go check out some of the past. I'm going to take a walk through the Astronaut Hall of Fame. By the way, did anybody else have an erector set when they were growing up? I did. In this display, you can see Gene Cernan's report card. He was the last human to walk on the moon. We have his squadron patch here as well. Here we can see the Apollo 8 Christmas prayer. As a reminder, Apollo 8, first humans orbiting the moon. There's Gene Cernan's Boy Scout certificate. And here is Gene Cernan's Hall of Fame plaque. And on that last trip to the moon, also was Harrison Jack Schmitt. He was the lunar module pilot on Apollo 17. He was the first scientist to walk on the moon. And last but not least is Ronald Evans. And he holds the distinction of being the last person to orbit the moon alone, while Cernan and Schmitt were out on the lunar surface. Of course, I don't want to overlook anyone else here, including Alan Shepard. I do want to call out where we have left off compared to where we are starting again. When you exit the Hall of Fame, you have the reminder we're going back. We have an Artemis II presentation. Expected to be 10 days, 685,000 miles around the moon. And this is our astronaut crew.
I'm Jeremy Hansen. I'm a mission specialist. I'm Andy Glover. I'm the pilot. I'm Lee Watson. I'm the commander of the Artemis II mission. To the moon. To the moon.
All right, well, we've seen some of the past. Why don't we go check out some of the future? Welcome to Gateway, the SLS. And this is it. This is the SLS, Space Launch System. Here's some information on Artemis. It's only 7.8 million pounds. And this is the Orion capsule. This is literally what the astronauts will be inside of. What's inside? Seating position. Don't forget about the water cooler. The good old toilet. Let's see. Preparing for space.
You probably dreamed of this. You probably replayed this moment 1,000 times. You probably imagined the awe-inspiring, indescribable rush of the ride. You probably celebrated the miraculous, cheered the momentous, and mourned the shocking. You probably still dreamed of what could be. We did. We do. And while many thought we were through, no. We've been learning, we've been building, we've been training. And now, it's time. Because the next frontier is not just for the next generation. It's for this generation. It's for me, and it's for you. For everything we still dream about. We go as Artemis.
Chills. Let's talk about one of the most important things here, heat shields. Orion's going to enter the Earth's atmosphere coming back home at 25,000 miles an hour. If the heat shield doesn't work, it's not coming home. This is interactive, so we can actually open the hatches. Or maybe not. Well, oh, it opened up top. Side hatch. Yeah, well, it's supposed to open. Let's hope that it actually opens in another month. This is just so cool. A little more on the heat shield and the tiles. These Astrorad vests here also, which are radiation protection. Actually flight flown artifacts. When you ask how it was flight flown, if we haven't been up there on Artemis before, this was tested on a human-like model named Zohar, and it shielded astronauts for about 60% of harmful radiation from a solar storm. And we'll move on from the Orion capsule to one of the rocket engines. we also have the life habitat here. Quarter scale. This will launch on a conventional rocket and expand to the size of a 3-story building in orbit. This is basically to support transport and surface habitation on the moon and Mars. They've got little plants, but a giant laptop. Outside the Mars exhibit in the store, we have another Orion capsule mock-up spinning around here. The one inside is actually used, or is an actual Orion capsule. Here's some information. They have some really great stuff in the gift shop here. This little quarter zip. Nothing on the back. Artemis on the front. Mission shirt. It's slim pickings on sizes. But I have this. We choose to go back and do the other things. Alright, it's time for our bus tour. Let's go explore. Oh no! And our tour begins.
Our first stop is called the gantry at LC-39. That gives us a good vantage point to look down on what is now the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station and active pads 39A and 39B. Artemis II is on Launch Complex 39B.
Heading up to the vehicle assembly building up ahead.
Built back in the 60s to support this Apollo
I'm
program.
gonna hang a right over that way and head over to Launch Complex 39.
4-2. Artemis II is currently sitting on 39B. Alright, now, the VAB. Again, strictly a NASA facility. Very unique history. We assembled in our vehicle assembly building, 12 Apollo missions. After that, we assembled 4 Skylab missions. Now, Skylab was launched on a Saturn 1B rocket, which is the little brother of the Saturn V. The Saturn V is the rocket that took us to the moon. Now, when you came out to the visitor center today, if you looked in our rocket garden, which was to your left when you came in, that rocket that's laying on its side, that is a Saturn 1B. About 2/3 as big as the Saturn V, only capable of orbital missions. Well, the 1B launched 4 Skylab missions. In addition, the 1B launched the Apollo Soyuz mission. This is where the United States sent their astronauts into orbit. Soviet Union sent their cosmonauts. They actually rendezvoused and docked in orbit. And you've seen that international handshake, and that was in 1975. After that, all 135 space shuttle missions were assembled here. Recently, Artemis I. Now, Artemis is a program that's bringing us back to the moon. Artemis I was assembled here and launched November 2022, strictly a test mission. And then currently, we have assembled Artemis II. Alright, we assembled it here. It was rolled out on Saturday, past Saturday, out to the pad 39B. So as of right now, there is nothing in the VAB. Artemis II is already out on the pad. Okay, now, looking at the VAB, these gray areas in the front on the side of the building here, these are doors. We have 4. Doors 2 and 4 are on this side, 1 and 3 are on the other side. These doors behind each one is what we call a high bay, and this is where we assembled the rockets. Alright, going all the way back to the again to the Apollo 1 above it. Continue that sequence. When they're totally closed like they are right now, it takes 45 minutes to open those doors. Okay. Alright, now the lower bay down here. Oh, I forgot to tell you. Make sure you take notes for the test later, okay? It's no test. But I will give you a quiz, and here's your first one. Where did we get the name Artemis from? There you go, Greek mythology. Okay, they want to fill that out a little bit? Apollo's twin sister. Okay, Artemis is Apollo's twin sister because they got us to the moon. Now, look out in the parking lot, ladies and gentlemen, by that big crane that you see out there. Now, I want you to picture in your mind's eye everything that you see out there in the parking lot. Once we clear the LCC, you're going to get a good look at it. On the bottom is what we call the mobile launch platform. Then we have the launch tower. Now, picture everything, okay, everything that you see there in high bay number 3, which is the one all the way over. This is where we assembled Artemis. Now, this is tower number 2. Okay, so just picture that in high bay number 3. That's where they assembled Artemis. Now, how did it get out to the pad on Saturday? Okay, look at your monitor. What you see there is a crawler transporter. Now, we have 2. Crawler 1, crawler 2, they're called Hans and Franz. Okay, we use crawler number 2 on Saturday to transport Artemis II from the VAB out to 39B. Now, these transporters, built back in the 60s, again for the Apollo program, and we're using Franz right now, number 2. He's been reconditioned. All right. These transporters weigh 6 million pounds. And you'll see on each corner the caterpillar crawlers. There's a pair of caterpillar crawlers on each corner. And our transporter will span what we call our crawler way, which is the roadway just to your left.
And so this is the gantry at Launch Complex 39. We've done a couple of videos here already, so just put a link to those videos. I am gonna take you guys up the stairs here to see the more important stuff, what we came here for. This is Launch Complex 39. Built for Apollo, used by the space shuttles, and now home to Artemis. Look at her out there. The last humans that left Earth orbit in 1972 launched from here, and Artemis is going to change that. That is the SLS, the most powerful rocket that NASA has ever built. It's about 332 feet tall. At the top is Orion, and that's where the 4 astronauts will be. Apologies for shaky video. As a reminder, Artemis not landing on the moon yet. This is a flyby. It is in orbit, but it is so incredibly exciting. This is our final stop and test before we launch Artemis 3 and land astronauts back on the moon. And while the Apollo missions were all about proving that we can get to the moon, Artemis is all about we can stay on the moon and launch further into space. The next time that people stand here watching a launch from that platform, humans are going to be on board. Well, you can see a little bit here, but hopefully when we get closer we'll be able to see better. But a little flame trench there. Here's a little bit of information about launches getting scrubbed, which will probably come in handy. Knock on wood, maybe not, for Artemis. The high winds, like you can see. I don't think they would be able to launch today with the amount of wind that we have. And here is the T-minus countdown. They will be doing wet runs instead of dry runs here over the next week or so. Be able to ensure that they can actually fuel up the rocket. Came down to the second floor here of the gantry. I'd say it's a little less windy, but I'm doing my absolute best to try to not make the camera so shaky. I'm sure I'm not doing too good of a job. I just can't emphasize enough just how stunned I am. I just can't wait. There it is. Artemis 1.
In addition, we had 82 space shuttle missions launched from here. The tower to the left is the single lightning rod on the top.
39A.
That was built for the space shuttle program. Alright. All 82 missions used that launch tower that launched from here. Alright. Now, with SpaceX, this is currently leased by SpaceX. They got a 30-year lease out here. When SpaceX leaves the facility, they asked NASA if they would leave the tower. NASA said sure. So SpaceX has modified it for their Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy rockets. Alright, you'll see on top of the tower, almost at the top, a little arm that sticks out. That is called the crew access arm, where we launch manned missions from here when the rocket is on the pad. That arm will swing over, connect to the crew dress where the rocket exhaust comes out. Okay. It is not primarily to reduce heat. No, the water is used to suppress sound and vibration. If you stand too close to one of these things when it goes off, the sound, the vibration alone can kill you. Put your heart into defense. Those are the SpaceX guys. Hi guys. Now, this white building right here, this is where SpaceX actually assembles their rockets. Remember, VAB strictly for NASA. All the private guys do their own thing. Now, that white structure that you see up there on the pad, that's called a strong back. That will come down those rails into the assembly building. This is where SpaceX assembles it right on that strong back, whether it be a Falcon 9 or Falcon Heavy, it doesn't make any difference. When a rocket's ready, strong back goes to the top of the pad, comes to a vertical position, the rocket's made ready for launch. There was nothing out here but swamps and
We have SpaceX out here on 39A.
Property was easily acquired.
Right over this way
If you're
to the
going to be
right.
launching to the east over the
39B.
ocean, should you have
is
a problem
Artemis.
with the rocket, in fact, no.
Well, we are closer. I don't think you can get much closer than this. This is taken from remote 39AB spot. And that big ball back there, as you can see, this is where remote pictures are taken of the launches from 39A, 39B. You can't be this close when they're launching. You need to be at least 3.5 miles away, otherwise the sound waves or shock waves from the launch would literally kill you. Out here you have a listing, all the missions from 39B, Apollo and Space Shuttle, and there it is. We can even get a little closer on Orion. But again, it is incredibly windy out here. So again, in case I haven't said it earlier, the first targeted window for them to launch, tentatively right now, is February 6th, although they have dates throughout March, February and March, for alternate dates in case of scrubs. Kennedy Space Center will be selling packages to view the launch on site. Those should go up on the website pretty soon. Although the last couple of major launches that we've seen out here, like heavies and everything from SpaceX, we've pretty much just done around the area. Not in Kennedy Space Center, but around the area. Get a better look here. The flame trench. And the water tower too.
Why? Because they kept it
Here we
cool.
go. We're going to pass by even closer now on this tour.
Figured out what they could do to fix vibration. Okay, good. Now, okay. What kind of fence is this? Alligator. Hey, you guys are good. All right. Okay. Yeah.
Look
First
at how close we are.
manned mission to the moon in 53 years. Okay. And you'll notice the mobile launch platform on the bottom, the tower, okay. No tower, no lightning rod on the top. We got the 3 individual ones. Okay. Now, there was a question: will they install the emergency escape system? Yes, they will. Does anybody see a cable up there just yet? I don't see a cable yet. They haven't installed it, but that will be in place when they're doing testing, when they're doing live testing, and when they finally get ready for launch. That emergency escape system will be in place. Okay. Now, did you get a good
Here's
view
all
of
the
fire
cameras.
pit that's where the rocket exhaust is? Now. Okay, now look straight ahead, guys. What's that right there? That is the crawler transporter. This is Franz. This is number 2. Okay. This is and you can see the caterpillar crawlers on the corners. It's sitting right on our crawler. This is, okay. This is crawler number 2. So Dave's going to make a stop here for a minute or two so we can get some more pictures. Okay. You can see how massive this thing is. Remember, it gets massive. Any human has ever traveled from the Earth. Okay. So they hit
See the crawler?
Again, they will not be landing their 10-day mission. They're going to go out to the moon, get a gravity assist, come back. Now, Artemis II, scheduled to fly sometime in 2027, about mid-2027, a little over 18 months after we fly Artemis II. Okay, that will be our first lunar landing since Apollo 17. Now, SpaceX is currently developing the lunar lander. That is Starship. That will be landing on the moon. Okay, we gotta get back in our seats, guys. Okay, so this is here that day, to the point where they were.
And here we are driving past the crawler tracks.
All right. What happens when things get cold? They shrink. Okay. The sections of those
Crawler gets a whopping 38 feet to a gallon.
Out. 1 is closest to the VAB. 2 and 3 are in the center. 4 is on the outside. So we're using 1, 2 as the backup.
We're coming up on the Launch Control Center.
Well, I don't know which one they're going to be using come February, but this is where it's all going to happen. Now, this was built for Apollo. All the launches were controlled here. Everything that went out of the case. Now, when SpaceX leased 39A, they were using the LCC to launch their Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy rockets. But that was true up until a couple months ago. SpaceX has taken their launch facility out of the LCC and put it down on in Hangar X, where they do the rehab of the rockets. So when they're launching now, from 39A, for example, it's all going to be controlled from Hangar X. When they launch out of LC-40 down on the Cape, it's all going to be controlled through Hangar X. Okay? So,
this is where Artemis II was assembled
right
and then rolled out from.
Alright, if you notice the LCC, you'll notice that on top of the LCC, there is a railing that goes around the top of the LCC. Yeah. Okay? That is not an alligator fence, that's a people fence. Okay? The reason they put that up there is the families of the astronauts like to watch the launch from the roof of the LCC. A little personal note, I am a retired commercial roofer. When Atlantis came back for the last time, I was standing on the LCC where those dishes and antennas are right there. I was standing right there when Atlantis came back for the last time. Landed on our 15,000 foot runway. Okay. Now, our third stop is coming up, ladies and gentlemen. Look to your right. Okay.
We've got an Orion emergency abort area here, as well as the VAB right in the background. Launch abort system for Artemis.
The RLS rocket out on the pad, and we saw this sitting right on top of the rocket. Okay. This covers, okay, let's say this is your capsule right here with your 4 astronauts in it. This covers the command module. If there was a problem during the launch, just like back in Apollo 12, where Peter had his hand on that launch abort lever, if you would have pulled that, a system similar to this would have ignited. And you'll see it once we get to the Apollo 5 center. Look at the top of the rocket, you'll see the Apollo version of their launch abort system. But this is for Artemis. If there's a problem, you pull that launch abort lever, these rockets ignite, pull the command module up and away to a high enough altitude where once the capsule is released, the parachutes deploy and you land normally. Okay.
You can see down below when this was actually tested. June 10th, 2008. Retest not required. These banners are pretty cool. From each of the companies that have worked on Artemis. Most of these are signed out here too. all the people that have worked on this. Really awesome. We're coming up on a Saturn building. This is Banana Creek viewing area also. This is where you would be able to see the SLS go up.
You'll see 39A and 39B. There's Artemis II out there on the pad.
This is pretty much as close as you can get.
Now, remember, minimum safe is 3.5. From here, we're just a hair under 4 miles. So we're just outside that safe.
And to space, circling the world in just 89 minutes. We had our own astronauts, and they were eager and ready to take the big ride. But our manned space program couldn't seem to get off the ground. We stuck with it, and on May 5th, 1961, things finally started going right. Astronaut Alan Shepard took his ship Freedom 7 6.5 miles into space. America had its first space hero. Just a few days later, our space program received a new challenge. But this one did not come from the Soviet Union. It came from our young president. In one inspiring moment, he changed the mission. From one based in fear of the present to one of hope for the future.
But why, some say, the moon? Why choose this as our goal? And they may well ask, why climb the highest mountain? Why 35 years ago, fly the Atlantic? Why does Rice play Texas? We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other thing. Not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
We hadn't been more than 16 minutes into space, and now we were going to the moon. We stood on the eve of the longest, most dangerous journey that any man had ever undertaken. And it would be taken by Frank Borman, James Lovell, and William Anders, the crew of Apollo 8. Through those doors, you'll find the firing room, launch control, just as it was on December 21st, 1968.
Okay, so we're going to go back in time a little bit, just to get a feel for what it's like when one of these rockets launches from here.
History is not being made, destiny is being embraced.
GPS says verify go for launch. CPSC verify go for launch. SRO verify go for launch. LM verify go for launch. QMO verify go for launch. CBTS comments. Attention all personnel. The countdown clock will start on my mark at T-minus 3 minutes. 3, 2, 1, mark.
This is launch control. T-minus 3 minutes and counting. Borman at this time. Final look at the switch list aboard the spacecraft. 20 seconds, all aspects. We are still go at this time. T-minus 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9. Ignition sequence start. The engines are on. 4, 3.
We're back. Here's a Saturn rocket. We have spent a lot of time in a lot of videos here, so I'm not going to cover this too much. But this is real. And it is incredible. Hashtag soon. Over here is where we get to touch a piece of the moon. It's like rubbing it for good luck.
Artemis has the task of not just going to the moon to create a long-term human presence on and around it, but also to prepare for ever more complex human missions to Mars. In short, everything we must be able to do here, we must first do here. So, what will an Artemis mission look like? Everything is designed and tested with our most important element in mind, the astronauts. This is their deep space, human-rated spacecraft called Orion, built in 3 parts. The crew module, where up to 4 astronauts will live and work throughout the flight. The service module, with life support systems for the crew and its own engine and fuel reserves. And a launch abort system, with engines capable of pulling the crew module to safety during launch should anything go wrong. To accomplish the task of launching our crew and heavy payloads, NASA is building the Space Launch System, comprising of a cargo hold, an exploration upper stage, a massive core stage, and 2 extended solid rocket boosters. Altogether, this is the world's most powerful rocket, and it exceeds the legendary Saturn V of the Apollo era in numerous ways. Sitting on the launch pad, the entire rocket, fully fueled, weighs just over 6 million pounds, 5.2 million of which is just the fuel. Once ignited, there is no stopping what comes next. All 4 RS-25 engines and the 2 solid rocket boosters come to life, thundering our crew upwards. 2 minutes after ignition, the solid rocket boosters are spent and released. 8 minutes after launch, the core stage is depleted and separated. The upper stage fires briefly, placing Orion into a parking orbit around the Earth. Here, the crew reconfigure the spacecraft and check systems to confirm everything is ready for deep space travel. With a go from mission control, the crew reignite the exploration upper stage engines to leave Earth entirely. The exact timing of this maneuver is critical to reach a speed that can escape Earth's gravitational pull, but also put Orion on a course that will intersect the moon days later. Once this burn is complete, the upper stage of the SLS is jettisoned and the crew aboard Orion coast for several days toward all that awaits them at the moon. Approaching the moon, we see the fundamental differences between Artemis and Apollo. Instead of requiring Orion to serve as an expendable lunar command module or to carry a constrained lunar lander, the Artemis missions will take advantage of a different approach, pre-staging. Everything needed for lunar missions will be positioned in advance by commercial and international partners. This includes rovers, science experiments, and human-rated systems on the surface. But it also includes a dedicated lunar station in orbit around the moon called Gateway. Here at this station, we can pre-stage a robust lunar lander and establish a strong communications relay. Designed with open standards, the Gateway can be expanded as new missions and partnerships develop, allowing multiple human missions on the moon at the same time, and enabling ongoing missions conducted even between human missions.
We just passed 2 of them. Here we go. Yeah. Over there. There's one right there.
Alright, Kennedy Space Center. We're going to start getting out of here. Obviously, we focused on one thing today, and there is so much more to see here. I mean, so much more. In order to soak it all in, I would think you need at least a couple of days to be able to check out all of the exhibits, or just do a little research online and figure out what your itinerary is and what you want to focus on. Space shuttle exhibit is something really shouldn't be missed. But today, we were all about the moon. Hopefully this video brought a little bit of excitement to anyone that watches it. I am super pumped we're able to get back to the moon, something I was really hoping would happen in my lifetime. Living in Florida the last 23 years, you kind of get jaded. You know, we've seen a lot of space shuttles lifting off, a lot of SpaceX, a lot of rockets. Nothing to the scale of what you see in those old videos from like the 60s. There's literally like ticker tape parades, and these astronauts were heroes. I want to see that. I want to experience that. It doesn't really seem like any of this is really making it into the major news cycle. News cycle just full of slop to try to take your mind off of things that need to be focused on. And not saying that this needs to be focused on, but if there's any type of diversion to a lot of the awful news that's actually going on out there, this would be it. This is something monumental. I can't wait to see it. But for now, I'm going to get out of here. So thanks a lot for coming along. Thank you very much for all of your likes, comments, and subscriptions. Treat others the way you want to be treated. Have a great day. See you guys. Alright, so I wrapped the video, and then when I went into the gift shop, the one outside the gates, ironically not inside, they had a better Artemis shirt. But more importantly, they're selling the Artemis tickets to do the viewing on site here. Banana Creek tickets, $267 a person. Or, if you just want to be in the Kennedy Space Center complex, $100 a ticket. Your annual pass does not work to get you in, or for any discount. The ticket's on sale as of the time that I'm filming this. Oh, and I should most importantly say, launch is now scheduled for February 8th, not February 6th.